Boom! Episode 61 of the Sales Mastermind, where badass sales professionals from all walks of life come together, help each other solve problems, close deals, and become better. In today's episode, we're going over 3 conversations important for your career. We're talking about what do you do when a gatekeeper says, hey, we'll get back to you later if we're interested. How to make the gatekeeper your ally, how to get to the actual decision maker. Second question, how do you help new sales professionals land jobs in the industry of your choice fast? We talk about broad principles that you can use as a sales professional or a copywriter, as you'll find out, to land the job of your dreams. And then number 3, what are the best practices for setting next steps early on in your sales process? You've had a great call, you don't want to lose them, you've got to set up a next step. And for subscribers to our newsletter at mastermind.army, we're going to go over an additional conversation not in the recorded portion of this call. We answer, what are the psychological fundamentals and principles we can use to have political conversations with loved ones to influence how they vote in this upcoming election? And shout outs to Jared Harlan, Ryan.
Like updates and questions, if we have time for all of it. But,
beautiful. All the time in the world, Ryan, my man.
So obviously we talked about it last week for those that were there. I started a new job a couple weeks ago. Already booked 2 meetings and I've held both of them. So it's pretty exciting. I am running into like 2 issues that I'm hoping to get some help with tonight. The majority of my calls either go to the direct line and then it goes to voicemail typically, or I get the receptionist. And I try to call at least 3 times on the receptionist through my sequence. And by the second time, it's like, oh yeah, you called last week and we told you we'd get back to you, if they're interested. And I typically follow up with that comment on the first call by saying, well, when can I expect a call, or when can I expect to hear something back? So it gives me a timeline of when I'm going to anticipate a response. But how do you guys handle that when somebody says, oh, we'll get back to you if we're interested?
My first thought is that in every case like this, the ideal outcome is to have a direct conversation with the person who's the actual buyer, right? And so it sounds like a big part of this issue is that there's an information gap in your current sales process. There's no way to contact the actual buyer directly via the phone. However, you sell in the education space, correct?
Yep.
So what I have found is that there's almost always a full publicly accessible employee directory that has every piece of contact information from name to title to phone number. And that's usually on their website. So if you search on Google, you restrict the search results to the college's website, and then you type in staff directory, employee directory as keywords. You'll usually be able to find a searchable page. And I'm curious, have you seen anything like that before?
Yeah, so I get the direct line a lot of times through that directory, and it's been really useful, but sometimes it goes to the office of student affairs or the office of such and such. So that's where I get that hiccup where I have to go through the receptionist, excuse me, in order to get through to the person I actually want to have a conversation with.
That makes sense. Have you tried leveraging a tool like we talked about, something like seamless.ai, to try and see if there's any list providers that might be able to help you with this?
So I am going to talk to the CEO about Lead IQ actually, because Patrick had mentioned that, and see if I have any better luck with that. I know it's not ridiculously expensive, so that might be a viable option.
Perfect. Yeah. Because I would love for this not to be a problem for you at all. I want your main problem being like, oh, I'm having this objection, not I keep reaching the receptionist and they blow me off and give me some crap about, yeah, we'll get back to you if we're interested. So as far as answering that actual question about how to handle that, I want to open it up to you guys. What do you think?
I always try to turn that into like, well, I'm really busy and I'm talked to a lot of people. Would you mind if I just followed up with you? Turn it into when's a good time that I could follow up with you?
Okay.
And then they'll usually be like, yeah, okay, sometime next week. And then just get more specific and just send them a calendar invite.
So create a timeline essentially and make it official versus
Hmm.
just calling them willy-nilly.
Yeah, because in my experience, that usually means they're not gonna come back to you.
Yeah, that's been my experience so far for the most part. There
I
are
think that's
rare
been every
cases.
salesperson's experience ever. Yeah, I feel like there's two main schools of thought here, and I'm more well versed in one than the other. To me, the two main schools are try to make the gatekeeper your ally and treat them with the same like respect that you would if they were the actual decision maker, and ask them qualifying questions and really approach them with curiosity, and treat them like they're important so that you can learn more information about the environment where the decision maker lives. And that way, there's multiple positives that come out of this approach, because if you do it well and you build rapport with the gatekeeper, at some point you can actually ask like for their email, for their phone number, to reach out to them if you've built up enough credibility and trust. But worst case scenario, you can ask them questions like, yeah, this is great. I totally want to be respectful of Jake's time. If you mind if I ask you just like some very high level questions to see if this would be able to help him at all? And then you go into, okay, so how does mental health counseling work at the college? Do you guys have like 20 counselors on staff? What I could see online is this. How does it work? And you start a dialogue with that person, and eventually through that process they could open up and they could reveal some very useful information, and you might find out that they're a terrible fit and save everyone time and not have to follow up ever again. You might be able to qualify them, you might be able to disqualify them. And that's why I'm a big fan of that particular approach. There's a lot of the other approaches to like try and get past the gatekeeper, maneuver around them, and figure out the best strategy, the psychological tricks and tactics. You can go onto the phone with like a very assumptive tone and be like, Jake, please. And they go, oh, this person knows Jake. Does he expect your call? Excuse me, Jake, please. And like be rude about it. But I'm sure that there's a much more virtuous like way to go about that second approach. I'm just not aware of it. I'm a big fan of the first approach.
Yeah, I like the first approach. Building a relationship and asking meaningful questions because the person might not be the right fit and I may be wasting my time. So that helps me know if this is even worth my time calling, however many more times.
Yeah, exactly. Logan, I'd be curious to hear how you've handled this.
Um, it's kind of similar along what you just said, where I'll be really presumptive and confident when I'm opening up with, I guess you call them a gatekeeper, assistant. But yeah, I mean, leading with, hey, give me the Jake, please. Like, try to sound as the least salesy as you can. Um, and then if they say something like, well, are they expecting your call? No, they're not, but it's something relevant to their role. It's about blank. So in your case, it's about counseling, and I wanted to connect. If you have some sort of like, well, they interacted with one of our pieces of content online, I'm following up, bring in that. But if you've really got nothing, then make the case that it's relevant to them at the very least, and then have confidence right up front. Um, I guess lead expecting them to carry you through to the other person.
And I'm curious to hear anecdotally from you. How often does that approach work where they just kind of pass you through regardless?
For me or Ryan?
Oh, for you.
Okay. That works 95% of the time for me. every time I get to a gatekeeper. I mean, with me, it's a bit of a different industry. It's network guys, so I think a lot of times they're assuming that I'm a businessman. It could be a bit of a different context with the schools, but that always works for me. Just say like, "Hey, Jeff, flankers, please," and it gets through. I mean, just really try to keep it short. Don't
So
give any indication that you're a sales guy.
take me through this step by step. Like, call me. I'm gonna be like Bob, the executive assistant to the head of networking at
Mhm.
Coca-Cola or whatever. Call me.
Okay, ring ring.
Doug Meyer's office.
Hey, could I get to Doug, please?
Who's calling?
This is Logan Westberg. I'm with Avi Networks.
And is he expecting your call?
No, but I'm reaching out because I saw he listed F5 on his profile. That's relevant to what we sell and thought he might be interested. So that's why I'm reaching out.
Okay. Unfortunately, he doesn't take unsolicited calls. I can
Okay.
forward you
How
over
do
to his
you,
email.
is there any way to leave messages? I mean, how does he do business typically?
Oh, well, I mean, normally he'll work with a list of approved vendors for Coca-Cola. We have a master list, and we'll usually pick our procurements from that.
How do you get on that list?
Actually, there's an online application. If you go to coca-cola.com/vendors, that's where companies can apply.
Okay. I mean, I think I've tried that before and didn't really see anything back. Is there any way you could put me through real quickly? Should be a short conversation if he's available.
Why not? Phew. All right,
Yeah,
that's
it's worth a
that's
shot.
interesting. Yeah. Do you? So I like the resourcefulness of that. Did you change your tone to be like a little bit more polite and friendly just now than how you might normally do it?
uh, Honestly, no. That's my tone, and it's a little bit intentionally like direct and to the
Hmm.
point because um, I don't want them to think they have any leverage over me. I want them to feel that I have a purpose to be calling, and they're just getting in the way. Because you have to think about the type of person that is in this role. A lot of times they're interns. If you have a certain level of confidence, they're just going to assume, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. Okay, I'll put him through. It's rare that they're going to be just super by the book, pushing back no matter what. That's what I found.
Totally follow that. So maybe Ryan, like the translation. Yeah. Mr. Douglas, please. Is he expecting your call? No, but this is relevant to him. It's about student counseling for mental health. And that's all. That's literally all you say. Then you shut up. And they go, oh, okay. It just patch you through.
So I
try
run into
both
this a
approaches.
lot too, and I have a really similar approach to Logan. I basically try the exact same approach. And I don't know if this is like semi unethical, but I try to hide the fact that I'm a salesperson, and I'm usually like, so PandaDoc's like a document automation platform, what I'm selling. So when it comes to the point when you, Nick, would say like, oh, is he expecting your call? Or like, what do you want to talk to him about? I would say something like, yeah, I wanted to talk to him about his document management. And like they don't know, like they're like, oh, okay. Like I try to be really vague with it and make it sound like something that is important to him, but it's vague enough that they don't know that I'm trying to sell him that, you know?
That's
Right.
good
Well,
because you're not lying either. You're
Yeah.
withholding truth in certain areas.
Mhm.
well, it also errs on the side of, I'm the cybersecurity department. I got to talk to him about a potential leak, and I can't tell you any more than that. You know, if someone's sitting at the desk, I'm like, oh, that sounds a little serious. I better patch this guy through.
Yeah, that's the fun part about all of this. So this is like a really small window into a deeper sales truth, which is like your tone and level of confidence going into a conversation matter almost more than the words that you're saying, right? Because you can
Thinking the
say,
same thing.
yeah, you could say anything in a situation like this. Bob, please. Yeah, no, this is in regards to his children. Like, don't say that. That's not a recommended sales approach. But people respond to, yeah, this is in regards to his document management.
Yeah. Also, something you might try is if their schools, I'm guessing they don't have like a super strict setup with the phones. If you just ask to get pushed through to the voicemail, you might get one of those automated things that tells you what the number is or the extension is. So that way you can record that for next time and then go direct to them.
I've had it go to them and it was supposed to go to voicemail and then they picked up the phone. That was a surprise.
Probably forwarded to their cell. That's awesome.
That'll work. Yeah.
So does that feel complete for that? Or is there another question that you had as well?
There is, but I want to open up the floor to anybody else first because that's been like 20 minutes on my question. So
You're a good man, Ryan. All right. Who else has a question?
Okay, I got something. So it's not like a fully fleshed out question. So you're going to have to help me get there. Okay. I'll start with the sentiment and how it so there's a whole bunch of new copywriters, right? That have a lot of drive that I can see it. And I want to be able to help them. Because I took the route of mentorship, and even when I was in sales, I was a relationship builder, right? So I never I didn't cold email people. I didn't value prop you're taught to. I never did any of that because I had my sort of way of doing it and it worked for me. And it obviously paid off. But it's a hard thing to teach other people because it's just like, oh, well, either have the money to buy a mentor or just be good at building relationships. And it's not just get referrals. That means nothing to someone who's new, who's trying to get their first client. So I guess my question, or the basis of my question, is I'm trying to really get a way to explain to new copywriters how to effectively reach out to business owners in the direct response space without sounding like they're trying to pretend that they're super knowledgeable, and without also coming to the table and being like, please give me a shot. I want something that is different that they can do, that I can advise them on. Just be like, look, do this. It's going to work better than begging, and it's going to work better than trying to pretend like you know more than the business when they're obviously an established, have probably split tested things. Going and saying, I can increase your revenue, they know you're going to be full of shit. So it's how do you value prop a business that already has their shit together, where you are not more knowledgeable than them, or anyone on their team for that matter?
So the first thing that I'm thinking of is, if I'm a business owner, I want someone to reach out to me demonstrating that they could help, not saying that they can help, right? So one thing that would stand out to me is what if someone signed up for my email list and had waited a couple of weeks, and you can do this as the copywriter that you're trying to help. You can coach them through this kind of process. Go sign up for 10 different email lists and review the copy that you're getting from it and suggest edits, improvements, cite research that you've done in the past that show that different calls to action have different click-through rates, all this kind of stuff, and just instruct the people to give the business something of value for free, ideas to try for free upfront.
So here's where, and I agree with that strategy. Unfortunately, in this industry, it's difficult to go in with that strategy as a new person because the big companies in this industry have split tested to hell. They know that what they're doing is working for a reason. So I worked for Natural Health Sherpa, which was one of the biggest health players in the game. And we would often get new writers reach out to me, reach out to the guy who was the lead at the for the email side of things, would reach out to the business owners, and they'd always reach out with that sort of same strategy. Oh, I think that if you wrote your story in this email like this, it would work better. And we always laughed at that because it's like, this person, A, doesn't know how that email performed. They've never asked that. They don't know how many tests we did before that to test into that story. They don't know the granularity of who's on our list. And so it's very hard to go in with that I'm trying to help you attitude, because really, frankly, they don't need your help is what I'm getting at.
I see. That makes perfect sense, actually. And maybe that's a losing strategy. So then my thought process goes to how would they respond if someone said, hey, I'm new, but still like experienced and have had some success. And I'm deeply excited by like your company and what you guys are doing. Can I work with you for free for 30 days? And here's what I think that I can add value. I can take away these manual, tedious tasks. I can do the basic proofreading and editing and send them to you. I think that what these people might be able to benefit from is like a foot in the door and just gaining some of that actual experience and offering to do that for free. Now, it's a bold move, and not everyone is willing to do that, but it's a different enough approach, hopefully, to stand out and get people started.
Yeah. So because I'm trying to think what those tasks would be.
Could
and
just be like, I'll write 2 letters for you this month for free.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to what Nick was saying before, but a different angle to it.
So I'm gonna put on my super hyper or not skeptical, but super. I'm the business owner that wants to give no one a shot, and here's what I would say to you. Okay, you writing stuff for free for me is going to lose me money. Statistically, if I run your stuff, I'm going to lose money. Why should I give you a shot?
So is there maybe an issue with like a mismatch between I'm a new copywriter and I'm trying to really hustle and I want to work for Natural Health Sherpa? Maybe that's not where they should be starting.
It's not, but that's what I'm trying to get at, is there's definitely a way to get in the door there. And it's the fastest way to getting good. And the reason I'm so hell-bent on figuring this out is because I wouldn't be where I'm at if it weren't for like going to an event and having that opportunity to get into Natural Health Sherpa. That quite frankly, did I deserve it? Maybe, but should I have been hired? Probably not. There were probably 100 other people way more experienced than I was, but I had the shot to come in, and they gave me the opportunity to write shitty emails for a few months until it just clicked for me. But that was because I was on the team and I had, my mentor, basically the chief of the email department, helping me. So it wasn't like a freelancer coming in. They were investing in me because of my attitude to be on the team rather than just giving me a shot as a freelancer. But obviously not every business wants to build a team. A lot of these businesses want freelancers and don't want an in-house team. And then other ones keep their in-house team really small and mainly utilize freelancers. So it's like, and maybe there's no good way. Maybe that's what it is. But I want there to be a way for a new person who has some knowledge, who maybe has a few samples, to be able to make it seem, to run that middle ground of I'm experienced versus I'm new, just give me a shot. Getting into these bigger companies is your best way to like really hyperdrive your career forward.
The easiest way I could think of is to offer to work for free, at least for a bit. They could start the conversation with a detailed plan of like, I'll do this much amount of work for you for totally free. And it should be something that's like, wow, that's a lot from their perspective. And then like, if you like me, then I want you to agree to pay me after that point.
Yeah, see that I follow that, and that works so well in so many different industries, but Jared has a very good point, which is that if a business owner takes a gamble on a new hire, statistically they will lose money from opportunity cost. They have a proven template script they know works. And if someone comes in and they knock it out of the park, great. But what are the odds that they're going to knock it out of the park when they haven't had years of research and experience selling to this exact niche? Because every niche is different in copywriting.
Literally slim to none. The chances are 1 in 1,000 that you're going to come in and write anything that wins. But
Right.
I do like the idea of taking the free work, but not necessarily maybe the email side. Maybe it's a complementary task. I like that idea. I would just have to drill down into like a company basis and see what else is needed that could be a value add to the email department in general, but isn't necessarily the copywriter saying, hey, give me a shot to write an email that you're going to lose money on.
Maybe it's something like I'll take care of the formatting. I'll take care of like I have no idea. I have no idea. But there's probably a finite list of tasks that also need to happen. I'll dedupe it or whatever. Go ahead.
Uploading the emails into the ESP. Like, hey, look, don't pay me anything. I just want to see the back end. If you just spend an hour teaching me how to upload these emails into the ESP for them to be sent out, I'll do that just because I just want to get a foot in the door. That might be a way.
Yeah. And I feel like if you try that approach with 10 different companies, one of them would probably be like, oh, okay, this person has drive. Yeah, let's give them a shot.
Because one of them has an email copywriter that runs the list, uploads everything, has to do all the split testing, and is overworked. Because copywriters should not be the ones who are uploading into the ESP, email service provider for anybody that I'm just like using jargon, if that. There's definitely a value add if that's the case for the company, is that if they have somebody who's doing too much and they can focus their time on what's going to be a needle mover in terms of improving results. Like that's why when I was a natural health Sherpa, the only thing I did was write an email on a Google Doc and send it to my chief, and we edited it together. That's it. That's all I did. I never uploaded anything. I never, programmed anything. It was just like, here's the Google Doc, and let's look at the data after it was sent out.
Mm-hmm. That might be another useful thing that you advise people to do if they land a position like this is like, so one thing that you should always ask is like, cool, now that I've been working here for a couple of weeks doing this, can I shadow your editing process to learn from you? Because ultimately this is what I want to do. And that might give them the opportunity to say like, hey, I actually have this idea for this piece. I don't know if that makes any sense. And then they can start actually doing the work that they want to do.
Yeah. Because the common advice right now, even from like high level copywriters, is write a few emails and send it to them and say, oh, if you think these are any good, feel free to use them. And I understand from a copywriter perspective, I understand why that should work. But again, looking at it from a business owner, it makes no sense. Your email's not going to be good. It's going to be garbage. And if I have to, as a business owner, designate my copy chief's time to edit your email to the point where it's ready to send out, then I'm losing money on just that alone. So I think that's it. I think it's sidestepping the copywriting totally and going for the ancillary tasks.
It's like there's that guy that it might have been Napoleon Hill that ended up working alongside Thomas Edison, and he didn't say like, "Hey, I want to do inventions with you." He said like, "I want to literally sweep the floor at your shop and do it for free." And that's how he gets started.
Yep.
Same principle.
So you're looking at a trajectory of kind of getting in at the sweep and the floors level, doing something menial and not technical, like not even skilled, just to get in the door, and then eventually leveraging that into, hey, I'd like you to pay me by letting me watch or participate or be in a meeting or something like that in a very minor way, and then eventually you can kind of climb your way up, crawl out of that once you understand how the company works and what they're doing.
Yep. It all comes down to new people in copywriting, and I was there, right? Everybody's been there. What I call concrete knowledge. When you get into copywriting and you read your first couple books and you take a couple courses, you have concrete knowledge where you think that what you know is always right, or there are always certain things that are wrong. So it's always wrong to do X. It's always good if you do Y. Like that's that concrete knowledge where there's no, they don't have the information yet to realize that there's no such thing as that concrete information in copywriting. Everything is testing. So that's why it's such a bad way to just go to a business and say, oh, I saw that your email didn't have, your subject line could have been better. Says who? Have you seen our data? No? Then shut up. You don't know that our subject line is bad. So, I don't know.
Is
I
that
have
is that
a question
enough?
regarding this actually.
Oh yeah, please go ahead.
Jared said that you should just try to get in the door, do some menial unskilled job just to start your career basically. For the first few months, just do something non-technical. Is that a better strategy than to just work somewhere which doesn't demand so much skill of you? It's like just get into somewhere which will take you at first, start doing actual copywriting there, get the experience instead of doing non-copywriting work and just waiting for a chance at a bigger company.
If I had somebody who I was mentoring, I would push them to get the biggest name client right off the bat as possible, even if it's menial shit, because you can say that you've worked for insert name of client. And that's what this industry is all about. Because at the end of the day, I can say, oh, I've written for Natural Health Sherpa. I've written for Jason Hansen. I've written, like, you don't know these names, but people, other copywriters and other business owners know these names. And so just the fact that I've done work for them, I don't even have to say what I did for them, but just the fact that I did work for them increases my credibility in the eyes of other business owners in the industry. So from a financial standpoint, it's probably better to go after the lower hanging fruit of businesses that aren't as big, but they don't have the name. But if you are setting yourself up for a longer term where maybe your rise financially is very slow, but you give yourself the opportunity to hit a point where you're like, you hockey stick. So it's a trade-off.
Mm-hmm.
And getting in with a big company that tests a lot, you literally are not going to get any better experience than being part of that environment. Because if you work with lower level clients, you won't see the data, and the data is everything. I was not a good copywriter until I started seeing what worked in the marketplace every day. And that's all I got.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Based on my own vast experience with copywriting, of course.
All right. What else, guys?
Fine. Like, if I don't hear back from you in 3 weeks, I'm going to give you a call just to see where we're at, or if there's anything more I can do to help you along the process, something like that.
Mm-hmm. One tiny improvement on something like that, and I've experienced people say yes to this in very high percentages, is great. So in a couple of weeks, let's go ahead and sync up for 15 minutes on Friday to kind of give a recap of where things stand. Do you have 10 a.m. or 3 p.m. open on Friday?
I like that.
Yeah, that puts something concrete on
Yeah.
the calendar. It's a meeting, and again, 80% of the time I find people show up to those, and the remaining 20%, they'll send an email and explain what's going on and why they can't make the meeting. So that's just, to me, that's a clear win.
Can you just repeat that one more time? You said in 2 weeks, let's set up a 15-minute meeting just to give an overview of where we're at, something like that.
Yeah, and you'll say this, it'll come out in your own words, but for me, the words are something like, awesome. Yeah, so this was great, Ryan. I know that you've got some, stuff to take care of internally. Let's go ahead and check in a couple weeks from now, next Friday. I have 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. open, and purpose of that, let's just kind of figure out. Shit, now I'm butchering it. Now that I'm like trying to
Okay, I
make it
get
a
what
real
you're
thing.
saying.
You get what I'm saying.
I would say that's very good. That's helped me a lot in the past. This is really nitpicky and kind of stupid, but a slight adjustment I would make there is to get the confirmation that they're willing to meet in a couple weeks first, because that's something that's really easy to agree to once they're kind of locked into that. So then you put up the time. So in other words, you say, okay, cool. Yeah, we could talk about this in a couple weeks. I don't know, maybe 2 weeks from now work for you? Sure. Okay, I'll put 15 minutes on your calendar for Friday. What time of the day works good for you? Because it's just different layers of agreement, and so they're a lot more comfortable with it. It's a very slight thing, but that is the overall message. I think that's really good.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That it brings transparency to the table, because then they know they're going to have to, meet with you in 2 weeks or have a reason why they're not, and when's the next touch point, I guess.
Right. Once you get them on that call, the follow-up one, make sure that you are very clear on what the conversation is about, because they'll probably forget about it by then. If you had a short conversation which led to the follow-up call getting set up, make sure that you're very clear up front. So we talked last week about this. We're here to discuss this. That way, it'll probably save you a lot of time going into those follow-ups.
Yeah, having a clear agenda for that call is necessary, because it can't just be a follow-up to check in, because then we're like back in that average salesperson mindset of like, hey man, this is just trying to see where things are at. So it's useful to also kind of set up ahead of even asking for the appointment what the next steps are. So I don't know what the buying process looks like for the universities and stuff that you work with, but I'll make some stuff up. Sounds like this has to go to the academic board, and they need a chance to kind of review the proposal that we've put together, and then from there, it's a matter of selecting which counselors are going to trial the tool. So it seems like you have a meeting with them next Monday. You'll go over it then. How about in a couple of weeks we sync up for 15 minutes? Call it maybe Friday. And we'll talk about the next steps of how we can help you with that process. Just something along those lines.
Yeah.
If you do a good job asking how their buying process works and what the next steps really are for them internally, then that information becomes additional context as to why there needs to be a follow-up meeting.
Because otherwise I'm chasing them down on the phone and emailing them, and it gets difficult to get in touch with people sometimes.
Mm-hmm. So one question I would have is like, how do you figure out what the buying process looks like for them?
What do you mean by that, Nick?
Do you know in very specific detail how people buy your product?
So it's different with every university. That's part of the trouble to it is sometimes it goes like to the student affairs or dean of students. Sometimes it's someone within the counseling center. So I guess we have to be more clear about the uniqueness of each different university and how they handle things.
Yeah, and that's really good that you know that, because now what I would do is proactively suggest that information. And I would frame it like, okay, so a lot of the universities we work with work in different but similar ways. So I'm curious to understand, would this be something that would fall on the dean's desk, or does this have to go to the central administration? Like, how does this work for you? And like volunteering that and giving that, it shows expertise. It shows that you know and understand their world, and then they'll just tell you exactly what.
I could have done that today too, because I kind of had an idea of what I was going to, but I didn't ask the question, so now I don't know.
Right. And it's fun. Like, you're in a totally new role, so this is just part of the natural learning curve. But like writing this down and documenting it so that you can transfer this knowledge to other people and help them train up and all this fun stuff is another way to create value for the company internally.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to implement this. Really great idea. Appreciate it.
Well, it seems like that's that. I think we can cut off the recorded part of the call here. This is good shit, guys. Thank you all so much. That, my friends, was simply brilliant. Go to mastermind.army for exclusive content, additional clips, and a weekly recap of these calls when you miss them, so that you can stay on top of your game, sharpen yourself as a sales professional, and join the Mastermind Army. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.